Well, thank you so much for that awesome introduction. Welcome, you guys. My name is Jana Joshu Grimm. I am a retired chiropractor currently and a nutritionist, and I have a health ministry called Revelation Revolution. My website is right here on the screen, happyhealthychristian.com. So I do things quite a bit different, and it's a true honor to be invited to be a teacher for Nature Sunshine for the first time. So thank you for listening today. We're going to be talking about getting to the root of balancing your microbiome. And as we go through this, I'm going to go as deep as I can within the time frame that I'm given. But if you guys want to take this further, I have a lot of teaching on this topic at this website. I have a wellness blog, a video blog, and a recipe blog. Lots of free resources to help you with the dietary portion or with additional teaching and at-home tests that you can do, stuff like that. So please feel free to use that as a free resource. Okay, so what is the human microbiome? Maybe you've never heard that word before. It is the community of microorganisms that live in or on the human body. So it's basically the microorganisms that live inside of us, and they live on the mucous membranes, everything from our mouth all the way through our digestive system to our anus and vagina, inner ears, stuff like that. So those are all the places where we have natural protection against foreign invasion. So it is not a bad thing to have living organisms on us and living inside of us. It is actually the way God designed us. A balanced microbiome is what gives us good health. So Dr. Mercola says that nearly 100 trillion bacteria, fungi, viruses, and other microorganisms compose our body's microflora. And advancing science has made it quite clear that these organisms play a major role in your health, both mental and physical. So that's interesting because more and more people are becoming aware, but it is still considered like alternative medicine. This is not alternative. This is simply truth. But more people are becoming aware that our diet and our gut have everything to do with how we think, and a lot of the mental illnesses or things that we are experiencing, even brain fog and stuff like that. So our diet and our gut health has everything to do with mental and emotional health, not just our physical health. According to Professor Gary Wu, University of Pennsylvania, in an article from Medical News Today, fungi and bacteria tend to be in competition with each other. When you decrease the fungal diversity in your gut, healthy bacterial colonization increases, and vice versa. An example of this is when you develop a Candida infection following a round of antibiotics. When the antibiotics kill off healthy bacteria, the fungi are allowed to proliferate. It's pretty simple. So you basically have two armies in your gut. I always do this, so if you can picture me holding out my hands and they're at even levels, I've got one hand in the air, so that is the army that's overpopulated. That's the probiotic population, the good bacteria in our gut. When that gets knocked down by taking antibiotic or poor diet, and then the following slides you're going to learn more of what causes this, and that army gets knocked down, and we're basically feeding the enemy. So the proper amount of yeast in the gut that we're born with is not detrimental. It's the overgrowth of it that starts to cause chronic illness. So we're going to learn more about that. How does the microbiome get out of balance, you might ask? Well, the number one way is antibiotic use. So this is just it's such an unnecessary form of suffering because there's so many natural antibiotics, and for some reason it's been promoted in widespread that natural antibiotics don't work as well as chemical ones. But natural antibiotics, they go after the bad bacteria, and they leave the good guys alone. They don't wipe out all the good guys in the process and destroy the terrain of your gut in the process. And there are very potent natural antibiotics. Basically, the stronger the infection, the higher the dose. It's not rocket science. the biggest problem we have is that people, A, don't know what the natural antibiotics are, or they are using antibiotics when it's a viral infection, or they're using antivirals when it's a bacterial infection. And so now we get this vicious cycle of people just running to the doctor, grabbing chemical antibiotics for an infection that can't be treated with an antibiotic, or that was never needing a chemical antibiotic to begin with. You wipe out all the good bacteria in the gut, yeast goes rampant, you have no idea what caused it or what to do about it, and it becomes a vicious cycle. Now your immune system's knocked down and you get sicker and sicker and sicker, and you're prone to infection after infection. Combine that with high sugar and carb intake, which is the traditional American diet, animal products like meat and dairy that are treated with antibiotics. So it's really important to choose animal products that are hormone-free and not treated with chemicals and pesticides and things like that. Tap water is absolutely filthy. Out here in California, we have some of the worst tap water, so very, very important to use purified water, clean water. There are antibiotics in our water. There are parasites, you name it, all kinds of stuff that wreaks havoc on our gut. Corticosteroids and other immune-suppressing drugs completely shut down the immune system, and probiotics, healthy, good bacteria, they're a huge part of our body's natural immune system, our first line of defense. Processed foods and GMOs, they're not real food, so they're not feeding the good bacteria in our gut. They're not supporting the things that were God-given to us to make our body thrive and stay strong and fight against infection and foreign invaders. The lack of raw fermented foods in the American diet is a huge problem. Culturally, we had more raw fermented foods in our diet, or other cultures do, but in America we do not. Praise God that kombucha and some raw foods are becoming more trendy, I guess you'd say. They are one of our body's primary sources of natural probiotics. This is how we get it through our diet instead of having to supplement. So basically you've got two options. You can either supplement probiotics, or you can get it through your diet from eating a good whole foods, non-processed, non-GMO diet that includes raw fermented foods and low sugar carb intake, or you're going to have to supplement more. So it's okay. You can do it either way. Both ways work. There's a lot of war that happens, people saying you have to do everything through food, or people that don't pay any attention to their diet want to supplement everything. Balance is the key. We have to do what's doable in with our schedules and our lifestyle. So I am not all for one or the other, but having a good, clean, balanced diet and eating whole foods, there's no way around that. There's no way around not eating vegetables. We have to eat vegetables. Nobody can live a healthy lifestyle living on a lot of sugar and carbs and processed foods. It's not possible. It's not the way God designed our bodies. Stress and emotional imbalance wreaks havoc on our gut, and so do birth control pills. So it looks like a teeny tiny pill that makes no difference, but rest assured, throwing off the hormones throws off balance in every area of the body. So birth controls do not balance hormones, in case that is not made clear. You're stopping a natural process in the body. The body, when it has naturally balanced hormones, we should be fertile. So to take birth control pills that make us not conceive is actually imbalancing our hormones, and therefore throwing off the biochemical balance of our entire body, and does set us up for microbiome imbalance. One of the first ways that we receive natural inoculation meaning the way that as a baby, when we come into the world, we receive our load of probiotics, is through a vaginal birth. So I love working with women, if I can, before they get pregnant or during pregnancy, so that we can get mom healthy, so that she passes on natural, healthy, strong immunity to baby, and doing everything that we can to make sure that she's able to have a vaginal birth, God willing. So there's no shame for the person who's on here who's had a cesarean section. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. Again, there can be this war that happens when we teach alternative medicine that we almost make it like our religion, our God. We want to have a vaginal birth, yes. We don't want to schedule cesarean sections and take this kind of stuff into our own hands, but there's a time and a place when it just has to happen for the sake of saving the baby or doing what's best for mom in that moment. But the bottom line is that vaginal birth from a healthy mom is natural inoculation for the baby, which sets the baby up to have a good, healthy amount of probiotics, a balanced microbiome from day one, which is going to make their immune system stronger, make development happen as it should, and set the baby up for success health-wise. Healthy mom equals healthy family. So moms tend to be selfless and want to put everybody ahead of themselves and get the kids healthy first. But truly, when mom knows what to do and mom knows how to cook for the family and mom gets healthy and then she has the energy to help everybody else get healthy, makes a world of difference. And like I said before, if mom has a healthy gut, she's going to pass on a lot of that natural inoculation to her baby, also through breastfeeding, not just the vaginal birth, but through the breastfeeding, which the longer we can do that, the better. There was something else I was going to make note of. If mom, so let's look at that in the reverse. If mom has Candida overgrowth, if mom has not a good population of healthy bacteria and an overgrowth of yeast, of Candida, which we're about to get into, can be called Candida overgrowth or Candidiasis. I'll just go ahead and flip screens so we can get right there. But if mom has this, then she can pass this on to baby through her breast milk or through the vagina, because the warm, moist environments of the body, that's what the gut is. Well, that means that vaginally this can be passed on to a child as well. So we want to prevent that if at all possible. So what is candidiasis? It's a big word with a lot of I's and a lot of A's. Candida albicans is the Latin name for the naturally occurring yeast in our bodies. Everybody has it. It's supposed to be there. It's part of the natural balance. But candidiasis, also known as candida or yeast overgrowth, occurs when there's a depletion in the immune system and good bacteria, or what we commonly know as probiotics, which gives an opportunity for yeast to grow out of control. So it's very simple microbiology. Candidiasis or Candida overgrowth is often the root of many chronic illnesses. So when I was very young in practice, I was really passionate about nutrition, but as a chiropractor, I had more training than most of the people in my class because that was my passion, so that's what I did all of my postdoc training in. But I didn't have a wealth of knowledge like an herbalist would, or other clinical nutritionists and stuff like that. But in God's grace, I was doing muscle testing and doing a lot of nutrition services, but I discovered on my own that this was the root of what was causing so many of the other things that I was treating with natural products. So we can chase symptoms with natural products and call it alternative medicine, but that's what gives a lot of people a bad name about our field. We have got to get to the root of the problem, and the things that we go after, like the yeast overgrowth, it may not make sense to a lot of people because they think, what are you doing about my fibromyalgia or my skin problem or, the gas or this or that, because they don't make the connection that this is all related. But I went through this. This was the root of everything that was going on with me. I'm going to share my testimony here shortly. And I went to holistic doctor after holistic doctor after holistic doctor, and nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. And I even brought this stuff up, and through the testing that they offered, even muscle testing and stool tests and saliva testing, nobody found this in me. And I fasted and sat with the Lord and said, Lord, you've got to help me. I was in full-time practice. My health was failing me. Nobody could help me. This was the root. So I'm going to get into that story in just a minute. But this is just a small list of some of the chronic illnesses that you'll see that at the root of almost every single one of these, you will find Candida overgrowth. Asthma, with asthma, you're also going to find a deficiency in hydrochloric acid and other things. You're always going to find liver problems. If you see allergies of any sort, you're thinking Candida overgrowth. Chronic fatigue, Candida overgrowth. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be combined with thyroid or adrenal problems. Adrenal problems often go hand in hand with candidiasis because when there's any stress on the body, be it the Candida overgrowth that came first or the other stressors in life that wore those down, they're all forms of stress, and that's what wears out the adrenal glands. As the adrenal glands wear out, the immune system crashes. Now you're set up to get Candida overgrowth or other infections, and it's just this catch-22, this vicious cycle of illness. But take a look at this list. Depression. Most cases of depression I've worked with have thyroid and or Candida overgrowth at the root of it, usually adrenal fatigue as well. Pretty much every digestive issue there is, this can be at the root: migraine headaches, interstitial cystitis, PMS, vaginitis, yeast infections. If anybody battles chronic yeast infections or toenail fungus or athlete's foot, this is what you're thinking. Weight gain, that they're working out like crazy. They think they're eating healthy. They'll tell you they have a healthy diet. But let me tell you, the person that has a quote-unquote healthy diet, and they could be a nutritionist, they could be in the field. I work with a lot of leaders in this industry now a lot. They know what to do. They know a lot of these diet rules, and I'm not a program or diet rules kind of person. I individualize a plan for every single person I work with, just to be clear. But I can get the person better who will cut all the sugars and carbs out of their diet and maybe even eat some processed foods versus the person that insists on being raw and vegan, but they're insisting on eating dates and fruit and not cutting that stuff out. Those things are sugar, and sugar feeds yeast. It's very simple. You cannot get better if you're not willing to remove the sugars from the diet. Is your microbiome out of balance? So how do you know? Maybe you don't do muscle testing like I do. So there's other ways that you can detect this in the system. On my website, I have a blog. You can use the search box on my website again, which is happyhealthychristian.com. You go to the search box. You can type in Candida or Candida spit test. This is just one at-home test. It's not said to be diagnostic. I'm not claiming that, but it's one indication that you look at that. Does it show positive? Do you have a white coating on your tongue or white spots on your skin? Do you have a lot of random symptoms that nobody can figure out, especially digestive symptoms? Are you bloated? Are you gassy? Are you constipated? Or do you have loose stools or complete stools that are completely all over the place? There's a symptom survey at this website here that you can check out. You can take that. Through muscle testing, I can tell you in 2 minutes whether you have yeast overgrowth or not. You can go to somebody that does live blood cell analysis, iridology, or stool analysis. And there might be somebody on the call that has other testing that they do that can detect it, but these are what I know of that I know have worked. And I particularly use muscle testing with the people I'm in person with, super effective. And when I'm working long distance, I use prayer, Candida spit test, and then symptom survey, go through a lot of questions. It's very easy to detect if somebody has Candida overgrowth. If you have a white coating on your tongue, it's almost impossible that that is not Candida overgrowth. So start there. Go look in the mirror. So my story, yeah, if only I'd known. So I was raised, my mom was a physical therapist, so I was raised in a Western medicine mindset. I went to doctor after doctor after doctor. I was sick since I was a kid, and that all started with childhood chronic sinus infections, which often manifested as respiratory infections, a lot of upper respiratory stuff. I was covered in eczema. Let's see, as a teenager, by the time I was growing into adulthood, as soon as I started my menstrual cycle, I had horrific menstrual cycles from the very get-go, which only got worse. So I was put on birth control pills and was on those for almost 15 years. I was on antibiotics at least 2 times a year, if not up to 4 times a year. I lived a pretty reckless life. I got into partying way too young. I have quite a testimony. I started drinking at age 12. So just to be clear, I'm not proud of all this stuff, but this is my story, and I'm saved by grace, so I'm not ashamed to tell the truth about what led to all of this. But I was a carbaholic. I was raised pretty much on dairy and gluten, the 2 things that my body hates the most to this day. But it led to even worse chronic sinus infections, to where by the time I was in my late teens, I had such severe environmental allergies that my eyelids were crusted shut when I woke up in the morning. And then that went on to the eczema flaring up. My hormones were insane. Mood swings were all over the place. I, even as a teenager, couldn't sleep at night. I had severe insomnia. So, you know, somebody with that could go get sidetracked and start doing all these sleep studies, and you're taking steroid creams for the eczema, and you're taking antibiotics and over-the-counter allergy medicine for all the other stuff, and it just becomes this vicious cycle. So it's just like running to doctors and running to doctors. Nobody can figure out what's wrong. Everything's a Band-Aid. I had every traditional test run by the time I was in my 20s because I was so sick. I was having severe vertigo attacks where I was blacking out up to like 30 times a day. I was diagnosed with endometriosis and had surgery for it by the time I was 24. I was told I would never have kids. I was absolutely, my body was completely failing me by my mid-20s, severely fatigued, and when you're not sleeping and your hormones are out of balance and you can't, nobody can figure out what's wrong with you, you start to feel completely hopeless. And so drugs and alcohol were the thing that I would run to, and then that would make it worse. And it was just a nasty, ugly life that I was living. I never really had clear skin. It wasn't terrible acne, but the body aches were horrific to the point where they were throwing around the idea of being diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and that's pretty much when I threw my hands in the air and said, something's got to give. Like this is not working. Western medicine can do nothing for me. This is ridiculous. I'm tired of having more drugs thrown at me. And I really started seeking a new way. So when I was 24, I was working as a drug chemist for Tyco Healthcare, Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals in St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm from originally, from the Illinois side of St. Louis to be exact. But I quit my job and I applied to chiropractic school and was determined to help myself. And my life was still out of control in chiropractic school. My health wasn't getting any better. I had access to tons of testing and became like a lab rat there. And I had to end up getting EKGs and heart tests and all kinds of stuff because of the blackout attacks. It was getting scary. And by the time I got out of chiropractic school, my health really hit rock bottom. But the good news is God really does work all things together for good, and that is what brought me to the end of myself. And I found Jesus, and that's why I'm passionate about it to this day. And it wasn't until I found the Lord that I started to find what I was looking for. So my desperation in my health totally brought me to my knees, and it led me to the truth. And I started getting answers, and my health started improving over the years, and it's radically changed my life. And eventually got bold enough to pray with patients, and I just started receiving revelation from the Lord. And as a doctor, I started getting answers, and the process started becoming more simple, and people started healing on a level that I had never seen before. And I knew once you experience the truth, you never go back. So I want to share something that is just a piece of truth that hopefully speaks to somebody here. But in God's Word, in John 10:10, the Lord says, "The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." And I can say from the bottom of my heart that there is no herb or diet that could have helped me. The Lord did not allow even holistic physicians to help me and diagnose what was wrong. God used all of that trauma and my desperation and brokenness to allow me to come to the end of myself, to wake up, to swallow my pride, to be completely humbled because he had a good plan for me, because he's a good father and he wanted to give me life abundantly. And I no longer had to be caught up in that life of he'll kill and destroy. I had answers. The Lord showed me exactly what was going on. I had Candida overgrowth on a severe level, which had led to a gluten allergy, dairy allergy, just ate up the inside of my gut, was destroying my liver. So I had my work cut out for me, but I had answers, and that began my road to healing. And now it's my ministry, and the Lord has just used this story in radical ways. Way too much to share here, but if you want more on that story, or if you need hope, again, my website, I share very openly a lot more details about my testimony. So hopefully that's inspiring to somebody on the call today. Okay, so let's get down to business and talk about what it takes to overcome the ECDCs. Number one, you got to cut sugars out of your diet. Number two, you got to reintroduce probiotics either through food or supplements. Number three, you've got to clean up the liver and all the other filters. The 5 filters of the body are the liver, kidneys, lungs, skin, and bowels. So I'm going to say that one more time. Liver, kidneys, lungs, skin, and bowels. So if you are getting your car's filter changed and you do it regularly, then wouldn't it make sense that you should be doing it just as much, if not more, for yourself? We are exposed to chemicals and toxins in food every single day, emotional toxicity, you name it. We have got to take care of our filters. So we have to clean this up, because every day, if yeast is overgrown in our system, it's the liver is trying to recirculate it through our body, trying to take care of it, but it can't, because we're not giving it all the resources it needs to handle this overgrowth. And last, we need some really strong, good antifungal supplements. So we're going to talk about what those are. Okay, so first of all, keep it simple, no sugar. So people can get really hung up on picking this diet apart. I hate calling it a diet because I am not a person that promotes dieting. I hate when we get hung up on self-image and stuff like that, but for the lack of a better term, diet meaning the part of what we eat. So no sugar or anything that breaks down into a sugar. So the first month, you're cutting out all sugars and carbs. That's just a general rule. For somebody that has really severe Candida overgrowth, like somebody that's diagnosed with fibromyalgia or severe pain syndromes or autoimmune disease, stuff like that, we might be cutting out all sugars and carbs for longer than 1 month. Again, this is not a program. This is a general rule of thumb. The bottom line is, you're cutting out all sugars and carbs until you start to get over the hump and you start to get some breakthrough, and you're pooping at least once a day and your bloating is going down or the migraines are going away. When you're starting to feel like, oh my gosh, this is working, the whole thing all together, not just the dietary portion, but everything's starting to work, then we gradually reintroduce sugars. We start with very low glycemic index foods, and we add more, like 1 month at a time or every few weeks, when the body is ready. And if you introduce things too fast and you feel worse, all it means is it was too soon, and you go back to what was working. Capiche? Okay, so sugars, carbs, that means no grains, not even gluten-free grains, no potatoes, no fruit, no alcohol, no sugar, no vinegar, no beets. You can have raw apple cider vinegar. There will be somebody on this call that disagrees with me, but if you understand microbiology and the process of bacterial fermentation, you understand that if it's raw fermented food like raw apple cider vinegar, and we're going to get into some of these in a few slides forward, that the process actually produces probiotics and is an essential part of this, but we don't want to do balsamic vinegar or white vinegar or red wine vinegar and stuff like that. So raw apple cider vinegar, yes, but no beets, they're just too sugary. Make sure you read labels, look at the sugar content on the back of the label and see what is in that food. You can do this on your own. You just have to discern think about what I'm saying. Keep it simple. Remember, no sugar. And we also want to avoid chemical sweeteners, because those will say sugar-free, but those are going to destroy the liver, which is going to prevent healing as well. No high mold carriers, so things that are grown in pods. No peanuts or pistachios, but all other nuts and seeds are okay. No mushrooms, because they're fungus. You can't feed fungus. No corn, super starchy and moldy because it's got a husk on it. Coffee, believe it or not, coffee beans. Think of things that are like warm and moist. They're gonna be a petri dish for mold, right? And cheese is moldy. So I personally have people come off all cheese in the beginning, and then I'm muscle testing them to see if or when their body's ready to reintroduce it. Something to note is just that most people that have Candida overgrowth have had it for a long time, which means that their body's been freaking out immune-wise for years or decades, and it's literally eating holes in the gut, and whatever you're eating the most of is leaching out into the bloodstream or being resorbed back into the small intestine and into the bloodstream, and your body's then going, what is that? And it's developing antibodies to these foods, and now you have food allergies. So whatever we're eating the most of, if you love cheese or you love grains, that's why so many people are allergic to dairy and gluten, because that's what they were eating the most of, and they had something that was destroying their gut, which led to the development of antibodies against certain foods. So beans and carrots, depends on the person. I typically allow beans and carrots, but again, if it's a person with a really severe case or they are already telling me that when they eat beans they're super bloated, it could be an enzyme issue that they just can't digest it, or it could be just that it's too starchy and it's feeding the yeast. So again, you have to exercise discernment. If it's really severe, symptoms are really severe, the patient's really not well, or whoever you're working with, then I would personally recommend eliminating beans and carrots at least for the first week or month until you get a handle on symptoms. I would say a word of advice that has really helped me and also helps the people I work with is, instead of focusing on what you can't have, focus on what you can have. God's word says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So you have a choice. You can think about everything that's wrong and everything that you can't have, or you can say, you know what, I want to get better, God, whatever it takes, and look at all these foods that I can have. Because let me tell you, the list of vegetables is like dozens, if not hundreds, that you can have, but everybody wants to avoid vegetables. Or they're so obsessed with being vegan that they won't allow themselves to have any meat or other protein sources, and that's hindering on this kind of on a Candida detox diet, because you're so limited in what you can have. You have to be eating protein to heal. Your body has to have protein to heal. So you can do it, and you can be a vegan if that is important to you, but I have to tell you, you have to have enough protein. And I have worked with some of the most unhealthy people I've worked with are very, very, very strict vegans. I know that's not going to go over well with some people on this call, but truly, because they're so deficient in protein that their brains aren't working and their guts are shutting down. It's just the muscles in their gut are often paralyzed. So by no means am I saying to not eat vegetables. Every single person needs to eat plenty of vegetables, but good, clean, lean meats there's nothing wrong with that. If you've heard that's unhealthy, that's not true. But you can have, I say, give yourself grace in this area, because what we're doing is temporary. So there's so much that you cannot have that you've got to eat something, and you can't be in bondage to food. So you can have a variety of meats and eggs, fish, poultry. Please just make sure it's hormone and antibiotic free, so you're not continuing to feed the problem. Veggies and leafy greens. If there's no severe symptoms, I do allow yams, but here's the disclaimer I need to make on that. What is called yams in most markets and grocery stores is actually sweet potatoes. To find an actual yam, the skin would actually be more like bark. It's not even related to a sweet potato, and you almost cannot find it in stores or markets and even a lot of local farms around in the U.S. So you have to make sure it's a yam if that's the case, and that's hard to find. So, but yams are 50% less sugar than a sweet potato. So if you can find a real yam, go for it. Cruciferous vegetables, you can Google a list of them, but the more of those that you're willing to eat, the less you have to supplement and the faster your liver is going to heal. It will make you gassy at first, and if you get really, really gassy, that's just an indication of like how not happy your liver is for the moment. So you may have to slow down if it's excruciatingly painful, but gradually add more and more because cruciferous vegetables are such a key player in healing on every level for hormones and all kinds of things, increasing energy, healthy bowel movements, clear skin, yada, yada, yada. Raw fermented foods, we're going to go through that next, but those are a key player, and I watch people, the speed at which they heal is so much faster when they're willing to incorporate these things. You can have lemon and lime juice or zest. So that's what I use as dressings, like olive oil or avocado oil or sesame seed oil, whatever good healthy fats, a squeeze of lemon or lime juice, maybe some raw apple cider vinegar, salt, pepper, garlic, whatever you want to do. You can make a lot of different dressings. I have some, again, recipes on my website, free recipes for vinaigrettes and things that you can make, a creamy garlic dressing that the base is tahini. So you do have options. Raw nuts and seeds are all allowed. Just remember no pistachios or peanuts. Unsweetened nut and seed products like almond butter, almond milk, unsweetened almond milk, unsweetened coconut milk, cocoa butter, coconut butter, you get the idea. Non-grain flour, almond flour, coconut flour, cassava flour, so you can make baked goods if you're using the combination of these products. And again, I have recipes on my website, a carrot cake that you can make. You can turn that into zucchini bread using all of these legal ingredients. You have some food freedom. Again, you just have to think outside the box. You have to think differently. You have to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It makes all the difference in the world. There is a lot of freedom that you have. And lastly, you can have these sweeteners, the sugar alcohols or the stevia, because they will not feed yeast. And in the same respect that they won't feed yeast, they will not feed yeast in a recipe and make like bread rise, because they aren't feeding the yeast, which is what would make the baked good rise. I don't know, repeating myself. And also for the person who's like, sugar alcohols are not good for you, I am not saying that they are the best sweeteners to have. I'm a person that says go for it, but right now, again, you're limited. This is temporary. It's not forever. So if you are under the school of thought that you should not have sugar alcohols, you don't have to eat them. Again, grace, be respectful of where everybody's at. But for the person that really wants to have some baked goods, you have some food freedom and you can have these. Just be aware that sugar alcohols, especially in O blood types, can cause some digestive distress if you use too much. Food is God's medicine. It comes from nature, right? It's healing. Like, there's nothing else that harnesses this kind of power. So just a list of natural probiotics that you can get from your diet so you don't have to supplement so much. Raw sauerkraut. I have a recipe for how to make raw sauerkraut, which, believe it or not, is super easy on my website. It's actually, I was super intimidated by raw fermented foods, thinking that's like way out of my league. I don't have time for that. You know, I'm in full-time practice. I like to eat healthy. I like to create recipes sometimes, but I just don't have the time to spend in the kitchen all the time. I'm just a real person. This actually was surprisingly easy and turned out delicious, and you can get creative. I've got some creative options on there where you can add dulse or different essential oils to it to make it even stronger, antifungal, or add other benefits to it. Kombucha, you can make it yourself, or you can buy what's in the store. Now that we have a lot more access to this and it's become trendy and a lot more popular, that's pretty cool because it's more available. You just want to, this is what I tell my patients, because we have to work with what is available to us. Not everybody's going to make kombucha. Not everybody has the time to brew it or the energy to do it. So I just tell them to look for the brands that are 4 grams of sugar or less. The Synergy brand that's out on the market is super popular. It's very available. and there's the citrus flavor, the multigreens, which are both 2 grams of sugar, and then there's the cosmic cranberry, the gingerade, and the trilogy are all 4 grams of sugar or less, and there's probably others, but those are all ones off the top of my head that I know that people have access to. I allow them. I do this every day, and it works. So the bottom line is people can go back and forth with which I read this from this doctor and I read this from this doctor. You know what? Pray about it and then use discernment. But I can tell you, I allow my patients to have this, and it works. Kimchi, I'm not a huge fan, but it's great for you. Raw kefir, there's dairy kefir. You can do water kefir. You can buy it in stores, at health food stores. Raw fermented veggies, raw apple cider vinegar, all of those are allowed and great for you. And then prebiotics are what are going to allow for probiotics to grow in your gut. And so any of these would be great to incorporate into your diet in some way. Raw chicory root, raw Jerusalem artichoke, raw garlic. The more raw garlic, the better. Also, side note, garlic is antifungal. It's a great antibiotic. It creates an environment in your gut in which these the bad bacteria or other things can't live. So garlic is amazing. You can take raw garlic cloves and cut them up like a pill and like swallow them like a pill if you're not wanting to cook with it. And it's better raw anyway. But this cold that's going around right now, there's a bacterial infection going around. My body was fighting it the last couple of days. Super bad sore throat, and some people are getting it in their sinuses and turning into a full-blown sinus or respiratory infection. Garlic was the #1 thing that worked for me. As soon as I started introducing garlic, it knocked it right out. So very, very inexpensive home remedy, great for yeast. The more garlic you incorporate into a Candida detox, the faster you're going to heal. Yeah, your breath's going to stink, but it's worth it. Raw leeks, raw dandelion greens, you can juice those. You can incorporate them into salads. Raw asparagus. Believe it or not, you can eat raw asparagus, like dip some hummus, dip it in some hummus or make some homemade dip with the things that you're allowed to have, and that makes a great snack. Some people are just so accustomed to always cooking asparagus, but they're really good crisp and raw, and raw or cooked onion. Okay, so I always use, if you picture my hand like a little Pac-Man, good bacteria eat for lunch. So if we overdose on probiotics either through diet or supplements, we raise up that little Gideon's army, the small army, and supercharge it. It's going to eat up the yeast. So we've got to overpopulate or repopulate the good bacteria so that it can eat up the yeast and take control, where we knock down the yeast population way down here to be a small population as was intended originally for our bodies, and we have a high population of the good bacteria. So yes, you can get good probiotics, good bacteria from raw fermented foods, but it's rarely enough. So that's where supplementation comes in. We love the products we have available to us from Nature Sunshine. They're awesome. And as what I've learned to do through muscle testing is if somebody's going to be eating or drinking kombucha or raw sauerkraut or something, I'll have them bring it in on one of their follow-up visits, and I'll dose them on probiotics, whatever probiotics test on their body, and then I can add, like, I can have them hold the kombucha or raw sauerkraut, for example, and then redose the probiotics, and their body still tends to, almost always, almost every single time, still needs to supplement probiotics because the population of good bacteria is so low, but we can get down to a more reasonable dose, maybe 4 to 8 probiotics a day instead of like 6 to 12, because I have tested people that have dosed on up to 15 probiotics a day that have severe Candida overgrowth. So it's amazing what the body sometimes needs depending on how severe the case, and everybody's different. So determining how many probiotics to take, you do not need muscle testing. You do not have to be a doctor or a scientist to know this. Start with the recommended dosage on the bottle. Add 1 capsule per day until you get diarrhea, and then back down by 1 capsule. So if you're up to 6 a day and you're still not having a bowel movement and you're not getting diarrhea, then your body is utilizing every bit of those probiotics, and you can either ride it out and stay at that dosage, you can add a lot more raw fermented foods to your diet until the loose stools happen, and then you know you're finally saturated and it's time to go down a little bit in dosage. You can either go down in dosage on the probiotics or back off on some of the raw fermented foods. Either way works. But basically, if you're not getting loose stools, you are not taking too many probiotics. And if you're still not going to the bathroom and you're taking probiotics, then likely you need to go up in dosage. And if you're working with somebody, I always say just consult your holistic practitioner to help you or to dose you. But this is not rocket science, and nobody's going to get hurt or die from taking one or two too many probiotics. It's just good bacteria. It's not an herb. So we have 3 great probiotics to choose from with Nature Sunshine products. Product A is a broad spectrum probiotic. It's got 11 different strains and it contains prebiotic dietary fiber. Product B has only 4 strains, but it also contains prebiotic dietary fiber. Product B tends to be my favorite. I don't know why, but more of my clients tend to test on that one than product A, but I do use both a lot. And then we have a new one that's a single strain, and it requires no refrigeration. It's super stable, and I've just started working with that one. So we've got something for everyone, which is awesome. Little side note, I have every single person that goes on a Candida detox eat 4 tablespoons of coconut oil per day. Ideally, virgin raw coconut oil is the best, but this is great for the liver. It's antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral. It's amazing for the skin. It's great for the brain. It helps balance hormones. It has so many benefits to the human body. So nobody is going to get high cholesterol from eating 4 tablespoons of coconut oil a day, and even the person without Candida overgrowth, this is a healthy habit to get into. Month 2, food additions, we sort of covered this, but basically once the symptoms start improving, bloating and gas are decreasing, which is usually in month 2, but not always. Like I said before, remember this is not a program, and there's the occasional small percentage of people where this happens sooner. But the way I work, I allow berries, grapefruit, sweet potatoes, and quinoa to start in month 2, and I see how they do for the next month. I try not to add too quickly, and if symptoms get worse, remember, that just means we added too soon and we go back to the original, more strict diet. In other words, you remove the berries, grapefruit, sweet potatoes, and quinoa, and just go back to like the no sugar, no carb diet. There are certain people I work with that I will start with these foods from the get-go if I'm discerning that a full sugar fast is not what is in their best interest, or that might set them up for failure altogether. But that's where prayer comes in for me, and I just use discernment with each person. Month 3 and beyond, so you're typically going to be sensitive to sugar for a long time. I was sensitive to sugar for well over a year or 2. I still am sensitive to having too much sugar, but I had very, very severe Candida overgrowth with very severe symptoms. Remember that the diet is only one part of the solution, and so without proper supplementation and re-inoculation of healthy bacteria, the probiotics, and really, really good liver cleansing, it's very unlikely that you're going to resolve candidiasis. It's a lot of work to reestablish harmony in the gut, but it is so worth it. So you really, if you're going to be working with people doing this, if you're a practitioner or a wellness consultant of some sort, you really need to encourage and educate the people that you work with so that they know going into this what they're facing, and that it's not, they can't just change their diet and cut out sugars and think that this is going to get better, or what will happen is they'll just become in bondage to food and be sensitive to sugar forever, because you're just managing it. You're managing the problem versus actually healing from the problem, if that makes sense. So we want people to get better because we're fasting from all this in the name of being able to add a lot more foods and have food freedom, because we don't want to put people in bondage to food and start developing fears from food and feel like they can't eat anything because they're allergic to everything. The body will heal from many or most of these allergies, or potentially all of them, if you do it right. So slowly, after month 2, after those additions I mentioned in the last slide, you want to slowly introduce then like apples and dates and raw honey and brown rice, things like that. So just pay attention to glycemic index and increase as their body is ready. The things that you want to avoid in those first 3 months especially is the super sweet fruits like mangoes and pineapple or things like that, grapes, soda. Soda is never good for anybody, in case you didn't already know that. Breads and pastas, be very careful with that stuff. Some people can tolerate like the quinoa pasta or like a quinoa brown rice pasta in month 3, sometimes month 2, but that's rare. Definitely the simple sugars are going to be a no-no for a while, and simple carbs as long as possible, but those don't benefit anybody. They're not a health food. So again, just use discernment and make sure you're reading labels. A fast versus a diet. I just felt like this is important because this is how we transform our minds and transform the way we think. Now, I want to note these are my personal definitions, so there might be somebody that disagrees. I'm not trying to ever start a war with anyone, but for me and for what I teach, a fast is a get-to. It's a calling. It's an act of worship. It's an honor. It's an act of personal devotion having to do with a need or a dependence on God. It's temporary, not forever. It leads to freedom and breakthrough on an emotional, spiritual, and physical level. You're doing it in God's power instead of your own strength, and it's a setup for success. A diet is a have to. It's self-imposed. It can be food legalism. It's black and white rules. You just follow the rules and regulations, which is what legalism is. You're being bound to this food law, and it doesn't take into account what God's trying to heal on a deeper level, because every person I take through this, it's never about the food. It's never about the Candida overgrowth, really. On a deeper level, you're learning self-control, you're learning perseverance, you're learning what it means to die to yourself and surrender to something bigger. You're learning that you're not required to do everything in this world in your own strength, that God has everything you need. He has the strength you need to succeed and go far above and beyond what you could do in your own strength. So a diet you're doing in your own willpower, it's a setup for failure. And you watch this. That's why we live in a world where there's always a new diet, a new fad, and a new trend all the time, and you see people on a yo-yo, not getting well, not receiving true healing, and that's not what we want. We are not here to just sell supplements, guys. We have great products to use. We want to use them responsibly, and we want to get people truly well. An imbalanced microbiome, so Candida overgrowth, means that we need a filter change. You cannot have a Candida overgrowth problem without having a liver problem. So toxins in our body get filtered through our liver, kidney, lungs, skin, and bowels, our 5 filters that we talked about in the beginning, every single day. And when it's a living toxin like yeast or bacteria or something like that, it's constantly reproducing and recirculating through the blood and back through the liver. So we have to have a really good liver and whole body cleanse. And a 1 or 2 week cleanse, guys, is not going to cut it. Through muscle testing, I can verify these things. The liver keeps showing up, keeps showing up, keeps showing up. So if you have hormone imbalances, you have a liver problem. If you have Candida overgrowth, you have a liver problem. You cannot have a thyroid problem, really, without having a liver problem. So liver, we're thinking liver a lot. And I'm going to get into a few more details about that. Be very careful with juice cleansing. This is, juice cleansing is amazing. I want you to hear what I'm saying. Juice cleansing is amazing, but if you have Candida overgrowth and you're doing juice cleansing that contains beets or fruits, a lot of sugar, you're actually feeding the problem. So you're taking maybe somebody else's advice or something that you learned and thinking that you're doing good for your body and cleaning up your filters, but you're actually feeding the yeast, which then is more toxic to the liver and just creating a vicious cycle and wasting your time. So juice cleansing is good, just no fruit. Vegetable juice cleanse with like ginger and lemon and herbs and turmeric and parsley and kale and whatever, that is fabulous. There's nothing wrong with that. That's only going to help. But just remember that yeast lives on sugar. Remember in the beginning when I said keep it simple, no sugar. That's the bottom line. That's what you have to remember with this. Whatever you feed lives, and whatever you starve dies. So if you're eating sugar, you're feeding the yeast. If you're cutting out sugars, you're starving the yeast. And please don't hate me because I'm just the messenger. I didn't decide on the rules of microbiology. God did. Yeast lives on sugar. There's nothing we can do to change that. So we have to follow those basic rules of science that yeast lives on sugar. So we have to cut it out. No beet or carrot juice. So people say, well, what you say no carrot juice, but why did you say I could eat carrots? Well, when you eat the whole carrot, you've got the fiber and it changes the glycemic load. So I personally have had success by allowing carrots but not carrot juice, at least not in the beginning. If you feel otherwise, that's okay if you know what you're doing and you're a practitioner that has a slightly different system, because we all have slightly different systems in how we do things, but this is what I found to work for me. I definitely don't do beets or beet juice because they're just too sugary. Excellent things to juice. If you do want to add some juicing to this, I love people adding like ginger shots to this. You can fresh press ginger. Garlic, ginger, turmeric are amazing anti-inflammatory, antifungal, antibacterial. They're just for so many more reasons. They're great. Dandelion, parsley, spinach, kale, and other herbs and leafy greens. If you can't read that, any green vegetables. Keep it simple. Cucumber, celery, broccoli, and then at the bottom it says lemon and lime. So you can juice lemons and limes. You can juice the peel of them if you want to. It's going to be more bitter. You can even throw like a half or a whole lemon or lime into a smoothie, a sugar-free smoothie. I also have 3 different recipes that are sugar-free with using some of our Nature Sunshine protein powders that are on my website that are Candida detox friendly on my website, because that's always something people are looking for. Because if you add berries to it in month 1, you're adding a lot of sugar. So you need good ideas if you want to add smoothies, and they just make life easier. So if you're interested in that, again, happyhealthychristian.com. You can go to the recipe blog and steal some recipe ideas there. How do we determine the best herbal cleanse, the best liver cleanse? So I personally do not recommend attempting to balance the gut without a great, reputable herbal cleanse. So there's a lot of stuff on the market that is very inexpensive, or that's it just pulls all the water out of the body, and it basically just dehydrates the person and flushes them out and causes intense diarrhea. None of that stuff is truly cleansing. So with our Nature Sunshine cleanses, we have a lot to choose from. We have stuff that is potent, it's pure, it's powerful, it's affordable, they're thorough, they're holistic in nature. They're not just pulling all the water out of our system and dehydrating us with herbal laxatives. So there's a lot to know about cleansing, and if you are new to using Nature Sunshine products, then I'm glad I have the honor of teaching you a little bit today. But we have some amazing cleanses, and they work, and you don't want to attempt to get rid of Candida overgrowth without incorporating something for the liver. There's more than just what I'm going to talk about today, but to keep it simple, you can get great success using what I'm about to recommend. So one thing to know is as soon as you start a Candida detox, you're going to expect the person you're working with, their bowels, to slow down as soon as you cut the sugars and introduce something that targets the yeast overgrowth, one of your antifungal products, which we're going to get to. So here's my rule of thumb for determining which cleanse I use if I'm working long distance or teaching on more of a global scale like this. So you're asking about bowel movements. If bowel movements are less than 1 complete bowel movement per day, then you're going to choose product D, which is specifically a liver cleanse. It's our boxed liver cleanse which is going to be named for you either at the beginning or end of this presentation. If the bowel movements are more than one complete bowel movement per day, so one or more, then usually you're going to be safe using product E, which is our whole body cleanse and contains more fiber. So the thing to note is that product E, the whole body cleanse, contains a lot more fiber. It's just a completely different product. If somebody is already somewhat constipated, they're going less than once a day, their body with the yeast overgrowth, the yeast die-off, is not going to be able to handle that fiber load, and you're going to create a plug in their gut, and it's going to be extremely painful, and they're not going to be able to handle that cleanse. So you have to target the liver with product D versus product E. Okay, so product D is my favorite liver cleanse. I love it. Just a few things to note about it. It's got Chinese herbs in it to balance the liver. It brings things that are over responding down to balance, and things that aren't working, it gives them a boost. So it just brings everything into balance. It's got a proprietary blend of herbs to cleanse at the cellular level, so it does more than just work on the liver. A proprietary blend to promote peristalsis, to get the bowels moving for that we're sluggish, and Candida overgrowth either makes things overstimulated. You might have the person that has really loose bowels, and if that's the case, you're not going to use this cleanse, either of these cleanses, because their bowels can't handle that much in the beginning. But this will stimulate peristalsis. It's got a small amount of psyllium holes, but not too much. It's got burdock, and it also contains walnut hulls extracts. We're covering a ton of bases with this cleanse. My favorite whole body cleanse, so this one's going to target not just the liver, but liver, kidneys, lungs, skin, and bowels. It's awesome. This cleanse tastes good. It's a twice-a-day regimen. It's doable. It's affordable. You can't get more thorough. And just overall, amazing cleanse. But again, if somebody's not going to the bathroom one full time a day or more, and then they start the Candida detox and you introduce the antifungals, their bowels are already going to slow down. They're not going to be able to handle, most likely not going to be able to handle this cleanse because it's got so much extra fiber in it. It comes in 2 flavors. The berry flavor is my favorite. It's got a cleansing drink that you do 15 minutes before breakfast and dinner, and then you take your capsules with breakfast and dinner, so it's very easy. If you've looked at other thorough cleanses from other companies, there's often a lot more stuff you have to do all throughout the day, and so your compliance with people is going to be lower when you make it that complicated. This also has a proprietary blend in there. I said more fiber, very deep organ and cellular cleansing, just great for the whole body. My favorite, did I miss one? No, okay. So my favorite antifungal supplements. Product F is, of all the antifungal stuff I'm going to mention, this is one that's a box kit ready to go for you. For what you're getting, it's very affordable and makes it much more simple. But just know that this cleanse alone is 32 pills a day. So they're easy cellophane packets. That does make it doable, but they're going to be on this. When I use this product, I'm using usually an average of 3 boxes back to back. So this is a boxed herbal cleanse specifically for Candida overgrowth. That makes it simple. And if I have a really, really severe case, or they maybe have like parasites or worms and Candida overgrowth, in this, I would not recommend doing this unless you are some sort of holistic practitioner or a doctor, but I've combined this product with product D to really hammer the liver and the Candida at the same time, just for like 2 to 4 weeks. And then one of these products, usually the product D, I don't need to be that aggressive anymore, but I've gotten great results with that just to make progress. But you need to know what you're doing if you're going to be that aggressive. I think that's about all there is to say about this. This product in and of itself is great. Very effective. Product G is a non-herbal liquid option. Comes in 4 ounces, 6 ounce, or if the family size 16 ounces is the only one I work with anymore, honestly, because when I'm addressing Candida overgrowth, you're not just using a teaspoon a day. I'm using 1 tablespoon twice a day on an empty stomach, and that's what it takes to really knock this down. Now, if somebody's really, really, really sick starting off and you're using one of the whole body cleanse or the liver cleanse, and they already have really crazy symptoms, it's better to start slow with this product and just use like 1 tablespoon a day or a teaspoon twice a day. See how they do, get over the hump of the major detox symptoms, and then you can bump up the dosage up to 2 to 3 tablespoons a day. I only use 3 tablespoons a day in really severe cases because I've just not found it to be necessary. But they will be on this for months, not just 1 month. It tastes like water. It's patented. It's safe for high dose and long-term use. You don't have to worry about that. It covers many, many bases. It's building their immune system. It's not just killing off Candida overgrowth. It's killing off any bad bacteria. It leaves all the good probiotics alone. It doesn't touch them. It's working on viruses and all 99.9% of other microorganisms that are bad. It's cost effective. It's also building the immune system and strengthening the body and other organs, like I said. Just a no-brainer. It's ideal. Like, so if you're working with a child or somebody that can't swallow pills, this is your option. It's also safe or ideal to use if somebody's choosing to do antibiotics or they have to sometime along the cleanse. This would be a great option to add in because this is going to protect all the good probiotics and not allow you to lose progress. Or it's going to, can't say that if you take an antibiotic, it's going to take a hit on the body no matter what, but you protect all the good bacteria when you take this product because it coats the good bacteria in the gut and doesn't let the antibiotic kill those off. So that's a good side note. Or if somebody's going to take like diflucan or another chemical drug prescription antifungal, this would be a great thing to add to it to help rebuild the immune system and help the liver and all that stuff. And the last, yeah, I think this is the last one I was going to mention. Product H, a single antifungal herb. It comes in 4 forms. We have it in a bulk tea form, so great for the person that wants a liquid or really needs to be conscious of cost and money. You can buy a big thing of this tea for inexpensive, and it'll last months and months and months and months. It comes in a liquid extract, so you don't have to make anything, but it's liquid and it's ready to go for you, or to use in somebody that can't swallow pills or just younger, a child, for example. It comes in capsules, which is super easy, and it comes in lotion, which is great for like athlete's foot or eczema or anything, any sort of topical fungal infection that you might have. You can even use the liquid, the tea. You can soak it in a washcloth or a gauze or something and use that. So any form of this that you choose to use it in, you can use it internally, but you also have options to make poultices for different skin conditions. The tea is really yummy. It's not like bitter or super herbally like some herbal teas are, and it is safe to add stevia or xylitol to it or lemon if necessary. You can drink it hot or cold. You've got a lot of freedom there. It's a great thing to drink every day for almost anybody. It's antifungal, it's an antibiotic, and it also purifies the blood and liver. So if you're on a really, really, really strict budget with somebody, this would probably be your #1 product combined with probiotics to choose for that person to get results, cover your antibacterial, your liver bases, and your add a probiotic to it. You're going to make progress. Thank God we have it. You can also add essential oils to any Candida detox. Again, if you're having to pick liquids or somebody that can't swallow pills, you're thinking more of like the liquid antifungals, one of those products that we just mentioned, and maybe combining oils with it. This is a list right here. You can read it for yourself of all the oils that we have through Nature's Sunshine that are all antifungal in nature. The two that I use most with fungus is oregano, tea tree, clove, myrrh, but all of these others, frankincense I use a lot, but it's more expensive, so you choose what works for you. I muscle test on people to confirm what they need, what their body's testing the strongest on, and that's how I determine what to use, and I have some other ways of testing, but if in doubt, you've got your list right here, and all of these will give you antifungal properties, and our essential oils they're potent, they're amazing, they are great. You can diffuse them, you can put them on topically with a carrier oil. So many universal things you can do. So something else to consider is anything that we put on our skin affects our whole body and our microbiome. So in the same way that essential oils work by putting them on our skin or applying them to our spine, they're going into our bloodstream within seconds, and they're in every cell in our body in less than 30 minutes. So that means that other things that we put on our skin, in the same respect, they affect us, only there's many things we're putting on our skin that are not beneficial to us. So the bad category, topical steroids, people don't realize how much these hit our immune system. So people with eczema, at the root of most eczema cases, you're dealing with Candida overgrowth and liver problems and a suppressed immune system. So using steroids, you suppress the symptoms, but you kill the immune system and you kill the adrenal glands, and now the body's set up to have a worse flare-up of eczema. And again, you've created a sick cycle, and you haven't influenced the body in any healthy way. Topical antibiotics, you're wiping out all the good guys. Hand sanitizers, I've got a slide on that coming up. Please stop using chemical hand sanitizers. It is not making you healthier, and all germs are not bad. Antibacterial hand soap, antifungal creams, chemicals and cleaners and beauty products, so much of the stuff that we put on our skin as women, and guys now too, but hair products, makeup, the things we clean our body and skin with, so much of it is chemical, and it's feeding the problem. So we have good alternatives, healthy alternatives for so many things. We already talked about essential oils, colloidal silver gel, amazing stuff. Again, it kills off the bad guys, but it leaves the good guys alone, so it's not killing off your body's natural defense, the layer of your skin that has good bacteria on it. Virgin coconut oil is amazing for your skin. Raw apple cider vinegar, you can dilute it and use it as a toner for your skin, or you can use it as a disinfectant. So many things you can do. There's herbal remedies. There's natural soap and cleaners. We have other cleansing products through Nature's Sunshine as well. In case you didn't know that, we can make our own with those stuff. We can add essential oils to a lot of this stuff. And there's plenty of natural makeup and beauty options. It is worth making the transition, because what we are doing to our skin is affecting our gut, and it is imbalancing our microbiome if we're not using stuff that came from nature. So no condemnation for anybody who reads this slide. I'm just being silly. But seriously, for the love of God and all things holy, you guys, please stop using chemical hand sanitizers. I have people offer it to me all the time. This is so unhealthy, and we are given a daily armor. We don't want to kill that off. Yes, we can wash our hands and we take care of, our insides. We need to eat healthy food. We need to take care of what's crashing our immune system, but we don't go out there and wage war on all the germs that are out in the world. We will never be able to hide from all that stuff. We take care of our body from the inside out and strengthen it and keep our immune system strong. And so we've got to be educated on what it is that keeps our immune system strong. And that's everything we've been talking about today. And what goes on our body does matter. So anyway, you get the idea. Slide's pretty self-explanatory. We do have a healthy alternative, Product I, which comes in a travel size gel. But we talked about colloidal silver gels. We've got our own brand, and it's amazing. It comes in a large size and a small size, and it's not going to kill off the good guys on your skin. and you can use it for so many other things. It can be your hand sanitizer, quote unquote, that you keep in your purse or your car, but it's also your natural Neosporin. You can use it for a vaginal infection. You can use it for a canker sore, or if people get a tooth pulled or have a root canal, I have them put this gel, literally pack it in the hole and then where the tooth was, and then put a gauze over it and bite down and hold it there. It will speed up the healing process of any oral problem. At least you will heal at least twice as fast. It's amazing the things you can do with it. And there's going to be people that are on this call that have so many additional ideas. So when you purchase this stuff and you stock your natural medicine cabinet, or you stock your, your daily, I don't know, beauty products and hand sanitizer, just your daily essentials, all this stuff is universal, can be used for so many other things. You're not wasting your money. It's an investment and has a lot of overlap for many uses. There's just a fun little cartoon for you. I would go with the Froyo and go for the probiotics, guys. This is something I sell in my practice. I buy in both these nasal sprayers, or the amber or glass amber bottles, and then I just have people buy the products. I don't make them up and sell them already pre-made. I have them buy their own product G to fill it with, and then you're getting all of this natural medicine, if you will, that's antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral, building the immune system. You're getting straight up into your sinuses. You're making this product stretch and go a long way. It's great to use daily for just daily immune support, but it's great for anybody who snores or has sinus congestion or allergies or has had sinus surgery, because people are going and getting scoped and getting sinus surgery, drilling out the sinuses. That was never the problem. Again, you can't, if the sinuses aren't the problem, it's what's going on in the gut that's leading to the congestion that's causing the sinuses to be congested, in the liver that's completely out of whack. So we've got to target the root of the problem. So these are just little daily things you can do to help yourself. When you're spraying this nasal spray up your nose, it's going into the airways, it's going down into your lungs. It's an awesome, awesome, affordable solution. So we're pretty much at the end, and what I want to say is just, I want to encourage you guys that if some of this information seems really overwhelming, or a lot of people freak out about, you try to take their coffee away and the guns go up, or their alcohol or sugar. I mean, these are real addictions and real strongholds with people. And I just want you to know, guys, that self-control is available to everyone. Self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. You don't have to do this on your own. Galatians 5, verses 22 through 24, and God's Word says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. And those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires." So you have power that is available to you. You can do anything. If you are being called to address this, there's no way around it. If you have yeast overgrowth, it's not going to go away on its own. There's no way to avoid going through it. But if fear is coming up that I can't give this up, or there's no way I can do this, yes, you can. I'm here to tell you, yes, you can. By the power of God, yes, you can, and it will be worth it. And God will reveal things to you that are so much deeper and bigger than the gut problem and the allergies and the physical things that have held your health in bondage. There is freedom, and it will be better than you can ever imagine. And I am living proof of that. And it's really not that complicated. This is information that everybody needs to know, and it truly changes lives, and it sets people free, because people are out there chasing symptoms and being over-medicated and being put on psychotropic drugs for crazy things, and our brain cannot work right if we do not take care of our gut, which is our second brain. That's what you know, they call it they, whoever that is. But truly, when we address the gut and we balance the microbiome, you will see so many symptoms go away and the body start to heal itself as it was created to do. And that's where freedom is. And then you have the energy and the health to go out and do whatever it is that God has called you to do. There's so much life to live, and all these problems, they're all lifestyle induced, which is not to cause shame, but to give you hope, because that means that it's within our control to fix it. And there's no surgery that can fix it. There's no medication that can fix it. With a little self-control and wisdom and education and encouragement, this is totally fixable.